What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Retro Movie Podcast, a podcast where everything is connected. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and joining me is my co-host, friend, and the person most likely to sneak up on a lady just to draw a little flower on her hand, Alex Perkins. Perk, how you doing tonight?
I'm all right. It was a little weird.
Dude, young Baahubali is a fucking... He's a goober, man. He's a
horn dog. He's a horn dog.
But hey, that's just... It's in the blood. You know, it's in the blood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the show, everyone. This is the podcast where every week Perk and I review a movie that's connected to the last one we watched. If you like our show, we post pretty much every Friday. We skipped last week, but there's a good reason, which we'll get to in a second. Yeah, we post on podcast services. We also post on YouTube. If you like our show, tell your friends about it and come watch the movies with us. All right, here's what happened. Okay. Last week, we watched The Sky is Pink. Great movie, very sad. And we're like, we need to mix it up. We need to get in these insane action movies. What would you call this genre, Perk? Is there like a
there
word?
Isn't one. Nope.
It's like these epics. Like
these movies in RRR are in a league of their own.
They're in a league of their own.
No comparison.
I was gonna say Bollywood, but it's not Bollywood. But it's just like these bombastic films, and we're like, okay, we loved RRR. We didn't watch it on the podcast. We both watched it and talk about it in our bonus reviews. So we're like, let's hit up our boy SS Rajamouli for my understanding is the biggest film franchise in Indian history, which is Baahubali, right? As far as income and box office sales. However, before we move on to that, we did find a connection between The Sky is Pink and Baahubali, which is Sarath Mohan, who worked on the sound department for both, which is a nice little. I think it's interesting that there's a single person that worked on both The Sky is Pink and the first Baahubali. That was cool to see. But here's what happened. Going into watching Baahubali, I knew there was a sequel, but I thought it was like, I don't know, the first one, then if you were to make a second one for money, you know?
Yeah, like it was successful, so they made another.
Right. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch that off the pod, or, you know, but we'll just talk about the first movie. Perk and I finished watching the first Baahubali, and this movie ends on such a massive cliffhanger, and we're not even close to resolving the story.
No, nowhere near.
Not even close. And then it's like, oh, wait. This is not Baahubali 1 and Baahubali 2. This is Infinity War Endgame. This is a massive story. So, okay, well, we got to skip a week and watch Baahubali 2, the conclusion, because we couldn't talk about the first one without seeing how the story ends, right?
Right.
So we had to skip a week, and now we will be talking about Baahubali 1, the beginning, and Baahubali 2, the conclusion, and just the large, massive story that is Baahubali. And I can't wait. Perk, why don't you introduce these movies for us?
Yeah, all right. So Baahubali is a two-part movie, SS Rajamouli joint from 2015 and 2017. I don't really think it should be called two movies because it's one movie.
It is, but it's also two in a different way.
Yeah, so the stars of this movie are Prabhas. I'm going to apologize in advance once again for my pronunciations. Rana Dagbati, Anushka Shetty, and Ramya Krishnan. And the plot of the movie is something else. Basically, what SS Rajamouli has done here is he made two movies, and not in the way that logic would state. Basically, the first movie, there's 2 hours of a movie.
A classic standard movie.
Yeah, and then there's an hour of a flashback. And it's like, oh wow, what happened? We went to a flashback for an hour. The second movie starts off with 2 hours of flashback.
We're still in the flashback.
And then the last 45 minutes of the movie
finish the original.
Back to finish the original. So basically, it's a 2.5 hour movie with a 3 hour movie in between.
Yeah, which is the best way of putting it. This dude shoved a 3 hour flashback in the middle of a standard movie, which is incredible.
And it's kind of explanatory when you look at it in comparison with RRR. Because something similar happens. There's an hour long flashback in that movie.
Yeah.
So the story follows gonna pretend like I can sum it up here in like 15 seconds.
Maybe just talk about the modern day story.
Yeah. Okay. Simple. So basically, it follows Sivu, our main character, who through suspicious means has gone over a waterfall in the arms of his grandmother and survived at the bottom of this waterfall in a village. His like drive has always been to climb this giant, like, fantastical waterfall, which looks amazing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And so, like, every day of his life, he tries to climb the waterfall. Eventually, he does. He comes upon some warring parties. It is uncovered that he is the rightful heir to the throne. And antics ensue.
Yeah,
there's a flashback to his father, and his father's brother, who is the king in the present day. And I actually was really confused. Maybe I missed the line of dialogue where it was established that this is a story about your father, but the father and son are played by the same actor.
Yes, and there's I will say when we first went to the flashback, I'm like, it seems like he's acting like the same person, but at the end we went from the father back to the son. The son definitely feels younger like and more goofier, even though it is the same actor.
Right. And yeah, do you mind if I toss in my opinion here?
Go for it. What'd you think of Baahubali, the epic?
Yeah, so I quite like the bookend movie, and I absolutely love the interstitial 3-hour epic.
I was like, is he about to hit the flashback? I'm like, yeah, I think the flashback's the best part. The flashback movie is incredible.
So yeah, because in the first movie, when we end the movie with an hour-long flashback, I'm like, what the heck? What's going on here? And then the second movie, when we start with 2 hours of flashback, I'm like, oh yeah, more of that. Let's go. This is what I'm looking for. There's stuff to pick at. It's not It's not a perfect movie, but it's freaking awesome.
Oh yeah,
it's so much fun start to finish.
Dude, SS Rajamouli is a madman. Like, this dude, I don't understand how his brain works. How the hell did the sequel come out 2 years after the first one? That's crazy to me.
No,
they must have filmed it back to back.
They must have filmed simultaneously or something.
But even just to plan these movies, like, this is probably the most impressive, just from a production standpoint. This is probably the most impressive stories I've ever seen brought to film because of the set pieces, the dances, the music, the amount of extras. Like, just everything that had to be done to make this story exist is insane. Like, at the end of the day, I think RRR is better because it's tighter and I think it's a better story.
It's an improvement in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But this is just like, I am in awe of Rajamouli, and I will watch the rest of his movies until the day I die.
Yeah, absolutely. I missed out on our fun facts, but a couple of them here. The waterfall took 2 years to create visually. They filmed it at a real waterfall, but then obviously spruced it up in visual effects, which some of the visual effects in this movie are a little ropey, specifically with some of the animals. Yeah. By the way, did you see the watermark?
Yes. So I want to take a second to talk about the effects as a whole, but
But so the waterfall was it took 2 full years to make, which is, good Lord, that's quite the undergoing. And then just the other fun fact I found was that they made $200,000 in US dollars in pre-orders for tickets to see this at one theater.
Wow. That's for the first movie or the second movie?
The first one.
That's incredible, man. That's actually incredible. Like, the second one I could totally get because it's like the hype would be, I can't imagine the hype in India before the second one drops. Like, it had to be insane.
Gotta be.
Because the cliffhanger was absolutely, I don't know if it got you as much as it got me, but I was like, you're joking. You're telling me that my man Katapa was the one who killed Baahubali? Come on, man. It's, insane.
I didn't really see that one coming. It was a nice twist.
Yeah, and it all makes sense when you find it out.
The second movie, because I would have not been able to live.
So, I'll talk about the effects for a moment, because they are fascinating to me. You mentioned the watermark thing. So, so these movies very, very, very much want you to know there are no real animals.
We didn't hurt any animals.
They did not hurt any animals, because animals getting fucked up. but they're clearly CG. And like you said, in the first movie, every time there's an animal on screen that's like getting a hurt, there's a watermark at the bottom of the screen that says CGI, which I think is just like, it took me out of it a little bit, but I also kind of appreciate it. Cause it's like, it's kind of sad to see like these animals get hurt.
At first I thought it was weird, and then I was like, no, that's kind of sweet.
Like, which they didn't have in the sequel, but that. Yeah, it was a very interesting choice, but I understand, why they did it. But yeah, the effects for me are so interesting because they're not good, but they're also not bad. They're like just good enough where they're not real, but you don't care because you're having so much fun.
Yeah, I think it almost perfectly matches and adds to the camp value.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want this to be an extremely polished movie. I think it just kind of adds to the fun factor when a JPEG of a golden crown is falling down a waterfall.
And I wouldn't even call it it's so bad it's good territory, because I think they're aware. It's just a budget. They perfectly matched their budget, and we know exactly what we need to get the effect we want, and they hit that. It's not a Thanksgiving where you're this is just a terrible movie and we're laughing at it. This is straight this was an intentional choice, and they had the perfect amount of production for all these effects.
Yeah, and camp is the wrong word, because camp is so bad it's good. There's not really a good word for it, but it's just it has a goofy feel to it while just being epic and awesome at the same time.
Yeah, it's just fun. And I talked about this when we talked about RR, but this even more than RR. This is the most anime movie I've ever seen. And it's I'm not even joking, all of the bad live action anime adaptations need to watch this movie, because this movie does anime action good. The final fight between Baahubali and Baladiva, when he's got the fucking chains around his hands and just beating the shit out of him, and we get in the impacts and stuff and the cracks in the ground. It didn't feel it felt in the world still. Yeah, it doesn't feel out of place.
Yeah,
where it feels in every fucking live action anime adaptation, everything feels just so out of place and just weird. But whatever, in this movie, it all just works, and I don't necessarily know why, but it's incredible.
Part of that too is probably because they always cast white people.
That's true. That is true. But yeah, I absolutely love that final fight with him, his mace on a chain hammer thing, and he's slamming him down. And yeah, when he was beating his ass with the chain hands, that was one of the most satisfying things I've ever seen in my entire life. It was awesome.
Yeah, we can. Why don't we pivot from effects into what I think is by far, I don't know by far, but in my opinion, the best part of this movie, the action.
Oh my God.
It's just so awesome. Okay. All of the fight scenes are so cool.
I have to ask you, Perk, because so I watched the first one and I was I'm online. I've seen before, because I followed a subreddit for a while. It's Bollywood realism that would just show these insane Bollywood clips. And I saw what I call the Fanlax cannonball, right? Which is when in Baahubali 2, when they get guys with shields in a ball and they launch themselves with the palm trees, right? So I thought that was in Baahubali, and it didn't happen. I was oh man, I really wanted to see that. And then in Baahubali 2, he looks up at the palm trees. I'm let's fucking go. We're about to get it. So how did you react to the Fanlax cannonballs? Because I was dying, dude. I was absolutely dying.
I'm in 100%. I thought I was cheesing. I was just...
It kept going, dude. It kept he got over, and then they just kept flying in, and I was just losing my shit, man.
Did you notice there was one that just bounced off the wall?
Yeah, that one missed. It just they just ate it, dude.
I would say rest in peace those guys, but these dudes are getting flung thousands of feet in the air and are just landing in a fight pose like a superhero.
Their knees totally fine, no worries.
Yeah,
but honestly, the one that missed added to the realism. That was actually super important to be there. But it was so freaking funny. It was when the first one just hits the wall and falls down. But yeah, there's that. There's in the first one, there's I don't know what you call it, the blanket that he throws on the army, which
fire,
the fire blankets. Badass. It was cool enough without the fire. I'm you just land on them, that they're gonna be struggling, and then he sets it on fire. I'm that works. That's freaking great,
Yeah, I think one thing that this movie has that RRR doesn't is the scale of army warfare, ancient army warfare. I think that aspect is really cool, and it's all of the scenes where they're leading legions into battle are just so freaking awesome. it's tough to not just gush and to be objective, but yeah, like the strategy in it, the tactics,
the Trident strategy, which you see very clearly.
The way that they paint the differences between the two brothers in their styles and in their strategies, it's so cool. It's fun.
Yeah, Baahubali with like the blade chariot.
Yeah,
just mowing down his own people doesn't care.
Tanks through civilians. Yeah.
I'm probably gonna talk more about the second one because it's more fresh in my mind. But like early in Baahubali 2, the fucking scene where him and Katapa are just fighting those bandits and they're throwing the axe back and forth. I was losing my shit. That was so freaking awesome. He throws it, and then Katapa sticks it in a dude and throws the dude over. Like, oh my god, incredible! And then we get the callback right before Katapa kills him, where he throws it to him, and then he uses it to stab him. I was like, oh my god, this movie, it's so fucking good. It is so good.
Yeah, it is. I think just continuing on this role. Sorry, I'm just hosting this one, I guess.
Yeah, I'm taking the back seat.
No, I think that the story is amazing, and it's what, for me, it rivals the action as the best part of the movie, because when you have 5.5 hours, you can tell really detailed story with really detailed characters, and I think the whole like prodigal son and the kingdom and the ancient empire interactions and all that is awesome.
And the villain was genuinely smart. Like his strats in the second one were like super, super smart, and they totally worked. I'm like, yeah, I buy that. That was awesome.
No, and I could go through a list and like tell you all the characters. Like Baladeva is great as a villain. His dad,
the uncle,
great.
He's great as a villain. I love how he has this complex about his disability, and it's like, no, it's because you're a piece of shit. Like we don't hate you because of your disability; it's because you just suck.
The OG Baahubali is an awesome character, even if he's a bit of a whore. The younger Baahubali is a pretty good character, even if almost all of his characterization is done via his father in a 3-hour flashback.
So that's if I can stop you for just a second. That's the one thing I feel like didn't quite work for me. Is like the flashback was so good, and I love the original Baahubali so much. Then we go back to his son. I'm like, I don't care about him as much. Like after
definitely not as much. But it's also been over 3 hours since we dealt with his story.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think is it Davasena?
Mm-hmm. Davasena, yeah.
Davasena, yeah. She's awesome.
She's awesome.
In both
such
in
a
both
badass.
Stories. Very cool. Sivagami is such a great character for so many different reasons, as the queen mother who's torn.
Dude, like how like when the second movie starts, when she starts with doing like the fire walk where she has to walk with the coals on her head for like 60 miles or something. I'm like, Queen Mother is a queen, like badass. Like the whole first movie she's badass, but then she like just loses the plot and goes like crazy, and but you buy it, like, and it's just so sad that she's being manipulated.
It's shown because she's torn within herself. You know, between her own flesh and blood son and who she in her true heart knows is the rightful king. And
right.
It brings her to a break pretty much.
Yeah. And I think it's also the guilt of having to choose one of her sons that she wants to make it up to the evil son. And he plays her. He's like, I don't want these gifts. Like, you're just pitying me. And then that really eats at her. And then it leads to everything else that happens. She was awesome.
Yeah, with all the character interactions and like the espionage and strategy and tactics, I think a good comparison, even though there isn't one, is this kind of feels like Game of Thrones in India.
Yeah.
If it's a little dumbed down, and I mean that in a good way, because Game of Thrones is convoluted.
Yeah, no, I think you get like such satisfying politics here, combined with just amazing action and music and everything else, right? But and I think the character of Katapa is also just incredible.
Oh yeah, sorry, like, forgot to mention Katapa.
He's the GOAT. Like I absolutely loved him, and like, so yeah, this is the other thing too. It's like watching Baahubali at the beginning, like I was in on like the modern day story before we get to the flashback, but I feel like I would have been even more in if we had seen that after the flashback. Like I almost wish the first movie was the flashback and the second movie was only the modern day, because like after we got back, I'm like, I care about all these characters way more. Like Devasena, they're like, we gotta rescue Devasena. I'm like, okay, I've never seen her before. Like, why should I care? Like, you're telling me to care because you all revere her, but I don't really know why. And then I see the flashback. Oh, she's the best. But like, I would have cared even more if we'd seen the flashback before everything else. But I don't know if it would have worked.
Yeah, I don't think it works in chronological order. I don't know that it works perfectly the way it is either. Also, yeah, I agree with you. I think that the plot line of the first like 2 hours of this epic does kind of fade away, and it's for a movie that's 5.5 hours long. The main like A plot is not given enough time.
I know, which is insane.
It's like maybe if this movie were 6.5 hours long, you know, and then we could get back with our main characters and stew for a little longer. It's really only like 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy how little time there is.
Including denouement.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. We kind of lose it. And yeah, I would think, in my opinion, like the only real weak character in the movie is Avantika.
Yeah, she gets. But
she's only a weak character because all of her character development happens in the first section of the movie,
and all of it happens in one dance/sex scene.
Yeah, and she just falls in love with him by being like kidnapped by dance. I don't really know.
I don't really understand how that. Like, can we talk about that scene? Because that scene was wild.
It was cool. It was cool, a little out there.
But it's like, I also felt I didn't love the theme of like her true self as like this very feminine person, because like, she is a badass and she's like a warrior, and she does like get the fight in the second movie. She does
go back,
but yeah, it was like, all along I actually was this like girly girl, and it's like, okay, I think it just felt a little bit misogynistic.
First of all,
not too bad, but
she was gorgeous even in like
that's what I'm saying,
roughed up attire.
That's what I'm saying, but it just, I don't know, it just felt like, oh, like this is how women should actually be. It was kind of like the implication I got, but which I don't know if that's actually what they're going for, because then like Devasena in the second movie is like the most badass character of all time.
Yeah. So I think I would be more put off by it if there weren't such incredibly strong female characters in this movie in Devasena and Shivagami.
Yeah, it just sucks that
it was a little weird, and at that time, that tone hadn't really been set. We didn't have all the context of these elite like battle queens.
Right. Yeah, and like you say, it just sucks that she gets Avante like kind of sidelined because like even after they like hook up, he's like, I'm gonna take your burden for you, and he just does what she was gonna do for her, and it's like, you do it together, because like that would have been awesome, because now knowing the whole story, like one of my favorite scenes is when Baahubali and Devasena finally team up and have the arrow fight scene in the hallway. Like, come on, man, that scene is fucking awesome. They're just both chucking 4 arrows at a time. Like, it's badass. Do you want to talk about the music?
Yeah, you start.
Here, but I'll say the negative before I say the positive. I don't think we needed the Thieves' Den dance scene in the first movie.
No, I think it was gratuitous.
That was a bit gratuitous.
But besides, it certainly was. But
besides that, and not even just the dance scenes, like the music overall in these movies is incredible, man. Like, it just hits. Yeah. It's so epic and just like beautiful.
It's so
like,
good.
Oh my god, I loved it.
It's the tone perfectly. Mm-hmm. It blends so well with the big, I don't know, with timpani type drums, just like gong type drums, just through a backbeat, like really emphasizing the ancient India involved in the film,
Yeah, and I also love how a lot of the songs have lyrics that like are talking about what's happening in the plot, which is always fun. And
I'm sure, so like I remember this from RRR as well, but I'm sure that the lyrics flow a lot better in the native tongue.
Yeah,
it's always just so funny watching the subtitles just like spell out very flat, like
yeah.
He is feeling conflicted. He is off to save his mother. Like,
also we should have mentioned at the top that we watched the Tamil version.
Yes,
because the original is not available. Is it Telugu?
No, so this one is. So RRR is originally filmed in Telugu, and then dubbed into Hindi, and the Hindi version's on Netflix.
Correct.
Baahubali was simultaneously shot in both Tamil and Telugu.
Mm-hmm.
So neither of those versions are dubbed. They're just the actual. That's how it was shot.
But I think some of them.
God, that had to have added a lot of time.
Oh, I'm sure, but I don't think every single scene was also shot in Tamil, because there were definitely times when like the mouth and the the audio was not matching up.
I think part of that might have just been poor ADR as well.
Maybe, yeah.
But the production they were going to produce 2 movies, one in each language. And the Tamil version is available on Netflix, which is cool.
There's a lot of versions available on Netflix.
Yes,
and
it's hard to find. I wish Netflix would have a better system.
Yeah,
but you got to dig around until you find the Tamil version.
Normally, it's pretty good where you can just swap out the audio like within the same like product. Yeah. Maybe because they like how they produced it, they had to do kind of separate releases. But yeah, man, these movies are just incredible. I'll look at my notes to see what else I wrote down.
I mean, if we want to talk, I do have a couple.
Oh, gripes. Go for it. Go for your grapes.
Not big, but I had mentioned that I think that there were a couple dance scenes that were pretty gratuitous, and a little exploitative. And
the Thieves Den one in particular is that's the only reason there.
It was short enough that
it was still too long, though. I'm like,
it was definitely too long. Yeah. Like, grand scheme, it was pretty small, but it definitely lingered.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that pacing is not Rajamouli's strong suit.
What are you talking about? In a 5.5 hour story.
I know, but it feels like some things are so incredibly rushed and some things are just so long.
Yeah, I agree.
Like the courtship of Devasena in her village, I feel like that takes a long time.
Also, like, what a weird... That whole thing was weird. With Katapa, like, being the talkative uncle and him playing, like, as a goober. Like, that went on for a little too long for me.
That's what I'm saying. I think that, like, that scene took forever. And then on the other hand, we only see Sivu in his village for, like, 10 minutes, and then he's already climbed the waterfall, and he's already met and already fallen in love with and already picked up. Like, I feel like the bookend story is very quick.
Yeah.
And then some of the more romance stuff definitely lingers.
Well, speaking of that, can we talk about the reason why he finally gets it up the waterfall? Which is a mask.
He's chasing a... Yeah.
Well, it's like, okay.
Mythical woman.
These masks are not fitted to each person, but somehow he gets his mask, he puts it in the stand, he's like, wait a second, and then draws like a beautiful woman, and he's like, oh, she must be up there.
It could have just been a boy.
It could have been literally anybody.
Did not look very gendered.
and then he finds her, and then, but it was just...
And it works out.
That being said, though, I did kind of like her being like the ghost, I don't know, person that like was leading him. Like that, I was like weirdly worked for me. But just the whole premise of him going up because he was just horny was just really funny. But then he was like kind of sweet of like drawing the flower in her hand and on her shoulder. It was... Young Baahubali is a weird guy, but I appreciate him.
Endearing, but certainly very odd.
Yeah. It was badass that when he chopped off the kid's head, the son of the evil king.
It was very cool.
That was pretty awesome.
Then the dude just kept walking in slow-mo.
Yeah, that was great.
And then, the other gripe I had was, I think that, so this is a clear edge I would give to RRR, is I think the romance in Baahubali, not amazing. I don't think...
All the romance or one in particular?
I mean, specifically the Avantika and... but also, I mean, there's a lot of time on the courtship of Devasena, but not all that much. After they leave her village, it's kind of sparse, their relationship.
Yeah. I did really like them together, though. Like, the scene where in the courtroom, after she cut off the guy's fingers, I thought was awesome. And he just comes in, he's like, "What? Tell me what happened." She tells him, he's like, "All right, drops dude head off." Yep. Like,
he go.
Freaking awesome, man. Yeah, that was weird. Like, we should more in the back end, less in the front end of their relationship.
Right. But then the comparison I would make is that the bromance in RRR is so far better fleshed out over the course of that movie. I think part of that too is you're not juggling as many relationships.
Yeah.
So the main bromance is given more time to breathe. But.
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like instead of that, we have the two mentor and mentee relationships with the Katapa and Baahubali and the uncle and Baladeva. I like those kind of mirroring each other. And yeah, like I said, I just love Katapa so much. Like, he's awesome. But some other just random notes I had on the action front. In the first movie, when they're fighting the kind of like savages in that army, and like they're getting down to the end, and I think it's Baahubali versus the captain, and the captain is just throwing people at Baahubali like in a stack.
Yeah,
killed me.
Very good.
Another scene, probably maybe my favorite scene from the first movie, is when they're lifting up the golden statue, and then one person sees Baahubali and everyone starts chanting his name, and the golden statue is up, but we get the bigger statue Baahubali behind as like how Baladeva feels in that moment of like, this was a big moment, but I still feel under the shadow of Baahubali. Like, that was like very, very good metaphorical imagery there.
I actually didn't put that together.
But
yeah, I just wasn't paying close enough attention. But yeah, that's clever. I like that.
Like, yeah, I just love he just like cannot escape his, I guess, brother's
shadow.
Nephew. Yeah, which is just awesome. Shout out to the recap of the opening credits of the second movie. Very tastefully done, and just like really good art they did there.
Quick and got you the info.
It's kind of shocking how little scenes they had to show to get you caught up. There's like 5 shots. Like, oh yeah, there we go.
There's a lot of piddling around in thieves' dens and whatnot.
Yeah, that's not plot relevant. Shout out to the flaming bullfight. Yeah, that was dope.
It's really cool.
And then opening the dam to just like clear everybody out. And then the last thing I'll say is I love the callback of, in the beginning of the second movie, we get Simigami doing the walk with the fire, and then David saying that at the end of the movie to end it and like kill the demon again. Was really nice. Nice touch.
Yeah. Also commenting on the ending, I really like when the bad guy just gets his comeuppance.
Oh yeah.
And I was concerned that maybe they were gonna do like a spare him, or maybe he has a come to Jesus. Nope, they super kill him.
Oh yeah,
and we get to see them super kill him, and I was so happy with that.
It was
the man has come to embody evil.
Yeah.
My only regret is that the uncle also didn't kick the bucket.
I know. I'm surprised they didn't kill him.
I think Katapa should have just when he turned on him and said no. I serve the king, the true king. He should have just chopped his head off.
I'm right there with you. I think that would have been a cool moment of like, the two mentors like fighting and him just killing him. But I don't know why they didn't do that. But yeah, seeing Baladeva get his comeuppance was awesome. Like, getting like stabbed through the knee to hold him there, and like, sick, dude. He's freaking awesome. Everybody, like, if you're listening to this podcast and you watch RRR and you liked it, you need to watch these movies. Like, set aside a Saturday and just get through these, because they are just incredible. Like, such a fun time.
Yeah, I might tweet about it or something. It's such a shame that people, like myself included, for the longest time, would just close off anything with subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
Because you actually have to pay attention. But there's a market in that. That's why The Big Bang Theory is so successful, is because they tell you when you're supposed to laugh, so you don't actually have to watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, catching strays out here.
No, yeah, and like, I don't know. I think for me, like, this is a lot of reasons why I never watched like movies at indie, but I would see like the goofy Bollywood clips, and I'd be like, oh, these movies must just be like all style, no substance.
Goofy. Yeah,
and like, I'm sure they're fun, but not like worth my time. But now that I've seen them, I'm like, okay, no, these are actually like genuinely good movies that do have a ton of fun action, but like the story is, and like the characters are freaking awesome.
Yeah, we're 2 movies into this string, and I've already had a 5.5 hour long fist pump and an hour long sob.
Yeah.
So there's more than just flash to the Indian movie scene.
Exactly. Do you have any recommendations? I mean,
obviously it's just RRR.
Yeah.
I guess Game of Thrones, but I can't really recommend it. I only watched the last season, which everyone says is the bad one.
Well, Game of Thrones isn't fun. It's not really a fun fact.
It's not fun like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like watching a man get his eyes gouged out is not as cool as watching a man throw a man at a man. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I do have a recommendation, and you're gonna laugh at me, all right? But
okay.
I'm not just saying it because I want to talk about it. I genuinely think that One Piece is a good recommendation. Like, because I was watching it and like I was thinking about the story, and like the story of this movie is actually very similar to the story of the most recent One Piece arc, about like a royal family that gets, you know, overthrown by an evil person that kind of sneakily gets up there and then getting it back. So if you want more of this kind of story that and also has some fun and cool action, even if you just watch the most recent arc of One Piece called Wano, it's a very similar story and you might like it. So and Perk, you know, if people watch 6 hours of this, they like long things. So why not watch a show that's over 1,000 episodes long?
Why the hell not?
There you go. All right, well, that is our review of Baahubali. Please go out and watch it on Netflix. It is you will not regret it. It is such a fun time. But before we reveal what we're watching next week, it's time for our bonus reviews. I got 2, Perk, you got 1, but I'm kind of tired of talking. Why don't you go first, Perk?
Okay. Yeah, so like prime, perfect. Like I was just, I want to watch something. I got some time. And Dungeons and Dragons made it to stream.
Oh yeah. I need to watch that.
Yeah, it's good. It's like, you know, I expected it to be garbage. It's not garbage. It's better than garbage. It's fairly trope heavy, but there's a lot in there for fans of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The cast is great. Chris Pine has infinite charisma.
Yeah.
Is it Michelle Rodriguez? I always get her name wrong.
Yeah, you got it.
Michelle Rodriguez?
Yeah.
She's awesome. She plays her, you know, traditional, like, tough guy, but with a heart of gold. And Hugh Grant plays the bad guy, and he just is hamming it up, and it's great. The story's fun. The comedy's fun. I'm pulling up the names. I gotta get credit.
He's looking it up.
I'm looking it up. Regé Jean Page plays like. All right, so my comparison I got. You know Spy Kids 3?
Oh yeah, I love Spy Kids 3D.
You know Elijah Wood as the guy. Yeah, so Zenk in this movie is the guy if the guy doesn't immediately die. And he and Chris Pine have some great interactions. Justice Smith as the like wizard warlock or sorcerer is really funny. He adds a lot of good comedic value. And then the cast is rounded out by Sophia Lillis, who I've only seen in It.
Oh yeah, that's what she's from. Yeah.
Yeah, she was good too. The cast has a great chemistry, great dynamic. The story's fine. It is. How on earth is this movie 2 hours and 15 minutes long? Like,
they got references, Perk.
I never felt bored. It wasn't. The pacing was good, but it's like, damn it, guys, this needed to be like a 95-minute, quick in and out. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun adventure movie. The characters have constant funny moments together, like Band of Misfits, and would definitely recommend it. If you're bored and want to throw something on for a little longer than you'd normally just be bored and throw something on, like Dungeons and Dragons is a good time.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely want to watch it because I love Chris Pine and it looks fun. So I'll
definitely fun.
Have to get to it. All right. First thing I'm talking about is the new John Mulaney special, Baby J. Yeah. Have you heard anything about this?
I saw it live and I've seen it since.
Oh, all right. There you go. Yep. So yeah, for those who don't know, it's kind of him talking about his experience in rehab following, you know, all of his drug issues. This is a weird one for me. I feel like it's not a comedy special. It felt like more of just him like telling a story with jokes, which I understand is a style, which Mike Birbiglia is my favorite comedian. That's his style too. But like, I don't know if I'd recommend this to comedy fans. I would recommend it to John Mulaney fans who want to know what he's been up to and how he's doing. Because like, I wasn't laughing that much. It was more just like, I'm mostly interested in like, yeah, how's he doing now and what was the experience like? But like, I've laughed a lot less than I would have liked to for a John Mulaney comedy special, I guess. And also it has got some kind of weird vibes at times. Like, I'm sure this wasn't his intention, but sometimes I feel like he was like bragging about things he did when he was addicted to drugs. And I know, like, he says at the top, like, don't do anything I did, like, don't do drugs. But like, sometimes it just felt a little bit off. These vibes were off for me. So it could be a personal thing, but I don't know. I don't think I'll watch it again. But if you're a John Mulaney fan, I'd recommend it. But that's about all I'll say about it.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, part of it was I was there in person. They didn't have a part like this on the I agree with you. It's a huge break from formula for him to go to the more story-based comedy. He had a conversation with an audience member who had been to rehab, and that was just kind of a cool little moment. He did something similar where he picked a kid out of the crowd. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, cover your ears for the next hour and a half."
Which that was fun. Like he kind of weaved that in throughout the show as well.
Yeah, to circle back to little Connor or whomever.
Yeah.
I quite liked it. I agree. I really liked that style, the story-based style of comedy. I think Mike Birbiglia is great. I think in his most recent special, Anthony Jeselnik has a great, like the second half of his show is pretty much just like that, and it's good.
Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend Anthony Jeselnik to anyone.
Yeah,
but I think
very
he's really
specific.
funny.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I thought it was good. I'm glad that he did not touch the whole ex-wife Olivia Munn thing with the 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
That was the right topic to steer clear of.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
He mentions his son for a bit, and that's nice. But I'm glad that it was more focused on like the whole rehab experience. I think that he's a good storyteller, and he's got maybe the best delivery and timing of any comedian I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I think that's his strong suit, and I think it works for him. But yes, I can see where some of it would come off a little weird, and this is not a good intro to John Mulaney.
No.
I agree with you. I'm not lining up to rewatch this. I did rewatch it when it came out on Netflix, but I will go back to Comeback Kid and Kid Gorgeous.
Well, that's the weird thing is like
I'm more watchable.
I think they're obviously way more watchable and on repeat viewing, but like also now like watching those knowing that he was
there
probably
will be a bit of a tarnish.
He was on drugs at the time. It's like this feels weird.
Not even that though. Even on top of that, there's also I mean he doesn't detail it, but it wasn't confirmed that he was using back for those. My guess was it might have been brought on by COVID. But you know that's his story to tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also there are a lot of jokes about his relationship with his wife, which is a little weird now.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like I'm at the point where I'm okay not watching his stuff anymore. I'm not saying I'm canceled John Mulaney. It's like I'm just not like I'm glad he's doing better now. I'm just less interested in him now. Not to say I'm almost not trying to say like I'm anti recovered drug addicts. It's like things just feel.
You hate people who went to rehab.
I know. Jacob? I hate people who make a change in their life for the better.
Ice cold.
Yeah, he says at the beginning, so it's like the vibes are different now, you know, and he's not really offering a product that I am still interested in. That's probably the most businessy way of saying it, and that's fine.
Fair enough.
That's
fine.
Yeah. So yeah, that was it. The other thing I watched, and I'm really happy I made time for this, is Star Wars Visions Season 2. This, if you don't know, this is the anthology series where basically Star Wars went to like 9 different animation studios around the world. It's like, hey, make a Star Wars thing. And it's completely filler anthology, like not related to anything, do whatever you want. And the first season was all Japanese studios, so it was all kind of different anime styles. And this season they went all over the globe, and we saw some really, really cool, I think mixes of like local culture with Star Wars, which I think was fascinating. So Perk, if you don't mind, I did rank them. I ranked all 9, and I kind of want to talk about each kind of section here and kind of the must-watch ones, I think.
Sure.
So starting at the bottom, number 9 for me is the first episode. It's called Sith. I understand why they led with this one in the ordering because it's arguably the most visually stunning. It's a very much like a painterly, like paintbrush style, and it's really gorgeous. But to me, it's just all style, no substance. I think the story is just not interesting at all and just very serviceable. And it's just like the classic thing we've seen a lot in Star Wars recently of like, not like there's good in the dark side and there's bad in the light side or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know.
Sure.
Didn't do a whole lot for me. And it was just all stuff, no substance. Number 8 in the stars. This was a very like claymation, stop motion, probably maybe claymation.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for this. It looked good.
Really pretty. And I'm gonna say like all the animation's gorgeous. Like it's gonna be redundant of me to say every single time that the animation's gorgeous.
Yeah.
This one, just a story again. Exposition was just very sloppily kind of delivered. And I think watching these, I focus more on like these are like essentially like shorts, right? Like short films. And short films are very hard to nail like the exposition of like what is the minimum amount you have to tell me of context for me to care. And this one in the stars, this spent like a whole like minute and a half explaining the backstory, and I was like, this, you're doing me too much, like I don't care, like
that's fair.
And it just didn't fully work for me, but still like pretty solid. Number 7 was the Bandits of Golak. This one was out of India, and I think how they merged, like I mentioned, like Indian culture with Star Wars was really, really cool. However, this is probably the animation I like the least because it was kind of a 3D style that I personally didn't love. And the story was just kind of fine. That's that one. Moving up to this next tier I call solid. Number 6 is Journey to the Darkhead. This one I thought was gorgeous. This is by the studio that did Korra, if you've seen Legend of Korra, the Korean studio. And I think the animation was gorgeous. I think the action was probably the best action in this whole set here. Story is cool. The weird thing that what killed this one for me was the voice acting was just not there.
Interesting.
I watch all these in English because that was by default, and also I didn't want to like figure out for every studio what was the correct one.
Yeah, fair.
And this one, it was the most like anime-esque style, and especially the male lead, just he was doing the screams and it was not working for me at all. And it just really took me out of it, unfortunately. So it was unfortunate, but as far as visually, one of my favorites. Number 5 is The Pit. This one was by, I think it's an African studio in collaboration with LucasArts, I think. Really solid story. Definitely one of the darker ones, kind of Andor vibes. Okay. And like I think the only one where like a character actually dies in all these. So I like that a lot. I think it was just kind of, I need a little bit more of the story and a little bit more like struggle. I don't know. It's something was missing, but I think a really solid one for sure. All right, now we're going to the top 4. These ones I think are like everyone should watch.
Solid gold.
Number 4 is I'm Your Mother. That it's the Wallace and Gromit studio one, and just very wholesome, very fun, very funny. It's about pod racing, you know, whichever I personally have a soft spot for.
I like pod racing.
And yeah, it's just really wholesome and great. So I highly recommend I'm Your Mother. Number 3, The Spy Dancer. This is a French studio, I believe, and just gorgeous like watercolor animation, kind of brushstrokes, kind of go painting outside the lines a little bit. And I think a really, really cool story that isn't fully resolved, but I think it works that way. And it's just a very cool idea. Basically, there's like this bar that all the stormtroopers go to, and the people who work there are like secretly, you know, rebels and trying to get information. And it's just like, yeah, everything just works. Everything works in The Spy Dancer, and I think the exposition was perfect and just awesome. Number 2, now we're in the definitely must-watch category. Like, if anything else, watch these two. Number 2 for me is Ao's Song. This is the last one in the season. This has got to be the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. This is, again, stop motion. I don't know what all the materials they use are, like clay or whatever, but like, these are the fucking cutest characters I've ever seen. It's about this little girl that like is trying to help her dad with his kind of work mining kyber crystals, and it's just so beautiful. And like I don't know, the story is like really good and the characters are great, but I just cannot get over how gorgeous and cute this short is, and I just really think everyone should check it out for themselves. And then lastly, number 1 is the second episode in the volume called Shrieker's Reach. This is by Cartoon Saloon, who they're a Nordic animation studio, and I've heard their movies are phenomenal. I just haven't had a chance to watch them, so I definitely want to now after watching this. Shrieker's Reach, to me, is a perfect short. It gives you the perfect, like, a super small exposition. It's a very simple story. You get the characters immediately, and there's a very powerful like twist, I guess I'll call it. That just really hits really hard, and it's just like, yeah, it's a perfect short. And I think like everyone needs to watch this if you're a Star Wars fan or just a fan of animation or anything. Like, I don't want to spoil anything about it, but it's perfect. It's perfect. Streaker Reach is amazing. So watch Streaker's Reach, watch Owl's Song definitely, and then if you want to watch more, you can go through the list. But I think overall a very solid season. I think if I had one critique of like Disney or ever put together is like, I wish they had the studios talk to each other a little bit more, because there's a lot of similar themes. Like a lot of these are dealing with the dark side isn't all bad and the good side isn't all good, and a lot of just young kids figuring out they have the Force and finding a mentor. That happens like 5 times out of the 9. So I wish there was a little more coordination with that, but overall, as an animation fan, I was very, very happy. Like, it was really cool to see stop motion in there and some like watercolor styles and some anime styles and all that. So, yeah, highly recommend Star Wars Visions Volume 2. Yeah. But yeah, Perk, you should watch Streaker's Reach at the very least, though. It's only like 7 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I must have blacked out. Was that your review of Little Miss Sunshine that we just listened to?
It's on my list, okay? Zelda came out.
Yeah, you had enough time to watch and rank 9 episodes of a TV show, but I Mahershala'd you and you still haven't come through.
It's on the list. I'm moving soon, all right? I'm busy.
yeah, busy guy.
So actually, that's a reminder. So there will not be an episode next week because I am moving and I'm not going to have time to get everything set up in my new place. But in 2 weeks, we're going to be watching 3 Idiots, which I've heard is a really good comedy from India, and Perk, one of your friends, it's one of their favorites, right?
Yes, correct.
So we're doing 3 Idiots. Our connection, did I forget to write it down? I forgot to write it down. It was somebody on the visual effects. And I feel really bad because we looked at him. He looks great, but I'm
going to pull it up.
Pull it up.
Find it. We must credit this man.
We must do it. He worked on the visual effects for both Baahubali and 3 Idiots. He also worked on Guardians, and in his profile picture on IMDb, he's holding an Oscar or something similar. So this dude, he's got the stuff. And I'm also to see what visual effects are in 3 Idiots and how much there are.
Keep vamping. I'm working on it.
I'm trying to vamp. Yeah, because like as far as I understand, it's a comedy, so I don't know how much effects there are to do. But I also,
all right, I got it.
You got it. Okay,
shut up. It's Satya Reddy.
Thank you, Satya Reddy. Very excited to see what work you do in 3 Idiots. So yeah, next week is 3 Idiots. That one's available to rent only, so apologies for that. Most of these are on Netflix, but our reason this one is not. So yeah, 3 Idiots renting next week or 2 weeks from now. But until then, thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.